Baseball season starts on Sunday. This is what happens when the NFL starts to expand. You do the combine, you got pro days, you got the draft, Super Bowl hangover, free agency, and it's sort of covered up. Now, I'm not going to say dwarfed what was happening in spring training, the World Baseball Classic, and now we have baseball upon us. And you still have people talking about the NFL, and you got college basketball, and I don't know if the storylines are that pronounced in baseball, where you're going, I can't wait because of this. I do think you're seeing this seismic shift where you're seeing go west, young man, as far as spending money in baseball. What's Trout due for an encore? Harper due for an encore? Strasburg, will he be Mr. October, actually pitch in October instead of watching? Are the Nationals real? Angels, Dodgers, are they better than the Giants? They spent a whole lot of money there. And also the story, with Johan Santana, with what's going on with him, he may be done. There's a lot of questions there. Tom Verducci, senior baseball writer. And if you pick up the issue of Sports Illustrated, Tom did a great job. There's a couple of great stories in there, certainly with the Nationals. And I like the Nationals and Tampa this year. Am I agreeing with you on that, Tom?
Wow, I felt good about my pick until you just said that. Yeah, no, I really do like both those teams. It's pitching
Yep.
these days, Dan. The last 3 or 4 years, we've really entered a pitching era, and those teams have a lot of good young pitchers.
But I'm looking at that. I like Tampa because of that, and the East is down a little bit, and I just think that they're going to be the team to emerge there. But if you look at the spending, it used to be the Yankees, the Red Sox, Phillies you could put up there as well. Now it's, west of the Mississippi. What happened here?
Well, a lot of it is regional sports network money came in and changed things. That was certainly the case first in Dallas with the Rangers, and then obviously with the Angels and now the Dodgers. I mean, it's game-changing money. There's no question about it. I think the other thing that's happened in baseball, Dan, is that the game really is skewing younger. You don't see guys in their mid to late 30s dominating the game anymore. There's lots of reasons for that. And generally, those guys make a ton of money. So you're better off having younger players who are cheaper, more controllable. And that's what's been winning out. So it's not necessarily advantageous. And you see now the Phillies, people talking about maybe their window's closing, the Yankees, age catching up with them. You saw it catch up last year to the Red Sox, and they had that salary dump with the Dodgers, and who knows how good they'll be this year. So age is expensive, but it's not necessarily a good thing anymore in the game.
Well, the Yankees, the number of guys they got in their late 30s, even early 40s here, Can they buy their way out of this?
That's to me one of the more interesting questions of the season is how long can they really stick to this self-imposed cap for next year of $189 million? Because they're already compromising, not by their own choice, the early part of the season because of all the injuries they have already. Granderson, Teixeira, Jeter, Rodriguez. So they're going to have to play uphill for the last 4 months. And if they're playing 500 ball or even worse when we get to July, how do they resist the temptation of going out there and just buying whatever pieces they can possibly get? Because they don't do transitional years in New York. So to save a season, I think they may have to go to plan B, C, or D, which means blowing up the $189 million plan for next year.
If you're looking at the number of teams who will compete, and you said don't be surprised at being surprised this year because that margin of the haves and the have-nots have, that's rapidly closed here.
Yeah, it really is interesting to me. Think about this. In the last, I think it's 7 years, only 3 teams have won 100 games. And in 9 years before that, we had 14 teams. Those days of the Yankees winning 114, the Mariners 116, the Cardinals 105. I mean, I like the Nationals as much as you, but they might not win 100 games. And the reason for that is there's so much balance in the game. I mean, you saw what Oakland and Baltimore did last year. Who is that team this year? I mean, is it Kansas City? Is it Seattle? Is it Arizona? Those are 3 teams that stand out for me that are potential sleeper teams. So you're talking about teams now that maybe are 15th or 16th best in baseball are a lot closer to the number 1 team than it was 10 years ago, even 5 years ago.
How do you validate what the Dodgers did and spending that kind of money? If you're a $100 million difference in salary between you and the Giants, is this World Series or bust for Don Mattingly?
A lot of pressure there. A lot of pressure on Mattingly and the Dodgers in general. I don't even know that Mattingly is guaranteed to have a full season because because of the money spent, because it's new ownership, and new ownership tends to want their own people in place anyway. And I question how fast they can get out of the gate anyway. To me, when you make a lot of changes, as Toronto and the Dodgers have done, it's hard to imagine it's just going to, kick in this fifth gear there right away on opening day. It's going to take some time, and I don't know that they have a lot of time. I don't know that patience is in order in Los Angeles. I like the team, don't get me wrong, but I just don't know that they're going to hit the ground running and be this juggernaut that they think they are. But the reason they can do it is because the money they have is just ridiculous, Dan. I mean, people have complained that they paid Brandon Leak $7-8 million, and he's really not even going to be their closer, I don't think. But they can do it, and it doesn't harm the rest of the roster.
What about the Angels? Okay, that lineup is stacked. Can you hitch your way into winning a division and maybe going to the World Series?
Maybe. I'm less sure about that than I am about pitching your way, and they're certainly not going to pitch their way into it. They're going to be fun to watch. I mean, the top of the lineup is just ridiculous. And Trout, I mean, don't forget, Dan, he didn't play last year in April for the most part, for the last few days. Give him another month and what do his numbers look like? He's the best player in baseball. And, with the guys behind him, he's going to score. I think it's going to be a Ricky Henderson kind of season, 140, 150 runs. But I'm not in love with their pitching staff. I think they're good enough to win the West, but let's see how good they are. I think it's a very tight race. If I put Seattle in that race, it becomes a 4-team race where maybe only 90 wins that division, and the Angels can certainly get there.
It's Tom Verducci, senior baseball writer from Sports Illustrated, joining us, Dan Patrick Show. The Albert Pujols window, I thought the 10-year deal was really a 5-year deal, and you had to win a World Series in that 5 years. We're already starting to hear the whispers of Pujols that he's really big and slowing down considerably here. What is a season that you think is possible to expect from Pujols?
Well, don't forget, after about, let's say, the middle of May last year, his offensive numbers were back up to where you'd normally think Albert Pujols' numbers would be. He was a dominant hitter for the last 4.5 months of the season. Now, forget spring training. He had a little bit of a foot issue. He's one of these guys that just kind of rolls through spring training, gets his work in. I'm not going to make any judgments based on that. But I'm glad you said what you said, that when they sign him a 10-year deal, you get 5. I think they hope they get a little more than that. But the point is very important. When people sign these guys to 10-year deals, they don't do it because they think it's efficient that this guy is going to have put up 10 great years. That's the cost of acquiring the player. And he did change sort of the culture of the franchise there. And if they get a championship here the next couple of years, I think they think it will be worth it. But don't judge it because they made a mistake that he's not going to be a dominant player when he's 39 and 40 years old. This is the window right now. He's got plenty more good years left. Albert's one of these guys that he was never really fast, but even if the physical skills start to go, he just controls the strike zone so well. The hand-eye coordination's off the chart. I think he'll always hit.
Who will have a better season, the Angels or Dodgers?
I think the Angels. I question some of the Dodgers, the health, the age. What is Josh Beckett at this point? Even Adrian Gonzalez in a tough park to hit in. I like the Dodgers. Don't get me wrong. I think they could be a wild card team, but I think the Angels are the team to beat in the West. But I think the Giants in the National League are the team to beat in that West.
Before I let you go, Johan Santana retore that shoulder. Can we, kind of look back on that no-hitter when he stayed out there because he was throwing a no-hitter? Did that lead to this?
You can because you just don't know. You can't rule out anything, whether it was one day or 1 year. I just think mechanically, he's always been an accident waiting to happen. The way he brings his arm back and he holds the ball really well behind the rubber before he throws, it's very unusual. There's no whip-type momentum in his arm swing. And a guy like Tommy Hanson does the same thing, and he's had some issues. I think it's more mechanics than it is a one-time incident. But even the Mets are saying, we just don't know. It could have been. I think it's more of a long-term deal, but that night certainly will be a night people don't forget for good and bad reasons.
Great job with the magazine, Tom. Thanks for joining us.
You got it, man. Thank you.
All right, Tom Verducci, senior baseball writer, Sports Illustrated.